as the United States transitions from the failed policies of the Biden administration, more accurately described as the product of deep state control, to a second term under Donald Trump, the critical challenges facing our nation come into sharp focus. The damaging effects of the prior administration's mishandling of illegal immigration, education, and economic stability have left the country at a crossroads. National sovereignty, cultural identity, and middle-class prosperity are now hanging by a thread. These crises are not mere accidents of poor governance, but the direct consequences of deliberate or negligent policies that have destabilized communities, drained public resources, and fractured societal cohesion. The unchecked influx of illegal immigrants has thrown American communities into chaos, severely undermining their stability, safety, and functionality. Once thriving neighborhoods have been transformed beyond recognition. Single-family homes, long symbols of stability and community, have been overcrowded and converted into makeshift boarding houses to accommodate the illegal population. Streets that once reflected suburban tranquility now resemble congested parking lots, burdening infrastructure and creating an environment of disorder.
Liz, the people of Staten Island said no today, and they meant it. The mayor planned to house migrants from the southern border at this former grade school in a fully residential neighborhood with 4 other schools filled with children nearby. The city brought the migrants in, and they were greeted by their new neighbors.
You're not welcome!
The migrant crisis came to Staten Island today as dozens of recent immigrants were bused to a former Catholic school here for housing. Residents were furious.
Go home! Where's the children? You're not welcome!
We have an all-girls Catholic high school literally 50 feet from this facility. If your 16-year-old daughter attended this school, would you want a migrant shelter right across the street?
This overcrowding has not only led to deteriorating living conditions, but has also provided fertile ground for criminal enterprises to thrive. Gang networks such as MS-13 have embedded themselves within these populations, exploiting the chaos to expand their influence. These gangs have turned destabilized neighborhoods into hubs of illegal activity, further compromising public safety.
Shootings, limbs cut off and discarded or buried. The victims range in age from a 19-year-old waitress in Fairfax shot 16 times in the face after making a social media video disparaging MS-13 to a 42-year-old fellow gang member. Fox 5 covered one of the deaths extensively, 24-year-old Jose Guillen Mejia, a father whose body was found in 2019 in the woods off a walking trail in Reston. At the time, Fairfax County Police did not believe his death was gang-related, but according to prosecutors, Mejia was simply the first person that Condrey and his associates saw in the woods in an area they considered their turf.
And creating a sense of fear and helplessness among residents. Language barriers and cultural differences, which could have served as enriching assets under a structured immigration system, have instead created deep divides. Communities are fragmenting into isolated tribal groups with little shared identity or mutual understanding. What some celebrate as diversity has in reality become a liability. Without structured pathways for lawful immigration and integration, this unchecked influx has fostered disunity and division, dismantling the very foundation of American neighborhoods. This is not a rejection of diversity, but a call for its proper management. Diversity can indeed be a strength, but only when introduced responsibly through lawful immigration and accompanied by clear efforts to integrate newcomers into the cultural, social, and economic fabric of American life. When neglected, diversity becomes a force of fragmentation, leaving communities fractured and incapable of adapting to rapid demographic shifts. To preserve the unity, safety, and quality of life in American communities, we must address this crisis with enforceable solutions that prioritize cohesion and stability. The crisis of illegal immigration has extended into the classroom, overwhelming an already strained public education system. Schools are buckling under the weight of an influx of illegal immigrant children, many of whom are illiterate in their native language and English.
Our schools are being overrun in some areas, if not every school district, by illegal alien children who are overflowing the classroom, taking up resources like they're taking away law enforcement resources, like they're taking up hospital resources, and distracting from the learning of the children of the taxpayers that are there. That's the point.
Okay, you mentioned this, the language. So,
well, as 800, yeah, it's an example. When a teacher has to spend the time in the classroom to go translate lesson plans, she's not teaching the lesson plan, right?
The resources needed to address this crisis are being diverted from American students, compromising the system's ability to deliver a quality education and undermining its core mission, preparing the next generation of American citizens for success. What were once institutions of opportunity and advancement have now been reduced to daycare centers for the children of illegal immigrants. The result is a system that leaves American students underserved and disadvantaged. Resources meant to foster academic excellence are being drained to accommodate the needs of non-citizens, often at the expense of educational outcomes and quality.
Our system is already strained of funds, meeting the needs of students who are coming in with challenges, like who do not speak English as their first language, who are behind academically. And the pandemic only exacerbated those issues. And we're really putting the onus on our teachers to manage students coming in new all the time, month after month, new students, and having to manage their differing academic abilities. And we really don't have the funds to do it. It's affecting the ability to serve the needs of American students.
Bureaucratic agendas promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, have further compounded the problem, often overshadowing merit and performance-based education with politically charged initiatives. While framed as measures of inclusivity, these efforts have diluted academic rigor and reduced schools to battlegrounds of conflicting priorities. Far from fostering unity, these policies have exacerbated division, leaving students and educators struggling in an increasingly dysfunctional system. The solution lies in reclaiming America's classrooms. Education must prioritize academic excellence, celebrate American history and values, and focus on empowering American students.
When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth.
Without decisive reform, we risk sacrificing an entire generation to bureaucratic mismanagement and misplaced priorities. The economic consequences of the Biden administration's policies, or more accurately, deep state economics, have been catastrophic. These policies have waged an economic war on the middle class, prioritizing short-term political gains and corporate interests over the prosperity of hardworking Americans. Excessive government spending, coupled with the financial strain of accommodating millions of illegal immigrants, has fueled record inflation. The devaluation of dollar caused by freshly printed dollars has eroded the purchasing power of American families, creating an environment of economic instability that disproportionately affects the middle and working classes. While the elite remain insulated from these consequences, ordinary Americans are left struggling to stay afloat, their dreams of upward mobility slipping further out of reach. This is not mere mismanagement, it's a deliberate assault on middle-class prosperity. Policies that enrich corporate giants and globalist interests while leaving the average American disenfranchised are an affront to the principles of fairness and opportunity that underpin the American dream. To address these interconnected crises, a comprehensive and bold strategy must be implemented. The following measures are essential to restoring stability, sovereignty, and prosperity. The time has come to shut down the border until a clear and enforceable consensus is reached on the requirements for immigrants seeking entry into our nation. Immigration must serve as a net benefit to the entire population, prioritizing those who contribute to the growth, stability, and prosperity of the United States. Entry into this great nation must be merit-based, with a focus on individuals who are committed to integrating into American society. Learning English, understanding American history, and embracing the cultural values that define this nation must be foundational prerequisites for anyone seeking to join our national community. The current system, which allows unchecked entry with little to no emphasis on assimilation or contribution, is unsustainable and detrimental to both citizens and lawful immigrants who adhere to the rules. Immigration cannot continue to be a pathway to becoming part of a welfare state that drains public resources without reciprocal benefit to society. Instead, it must be restructured to ensure that newcomers bring skills, values, and a willingness to contribute to the greater good. Taxing remittances sent abroad, particularly to nations like Mexico, is a critical step in curbing the outflow of American wealth. This measure would disrupt the financial pipelines sustaining drug cartels embedded within illegal immigrant populations while redirecting resources toward rebuilding American infrastructure and communities. The exploitation of birthright citizenship as a loophole to circumvent immigration laws must come to an end.
It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know.
The practice of illegal aliens entering the United States, giving birth, and then using their children as leverage to establish residency undermines the rule of law and the integrity of our immigration system.
Temporary residents, people who come in here, whether legally or illegally, and don't plan to stay, their children shouldn't become American citizens. I don't know any country that does that or why we would be different.
Oh, well, this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country
This is a
founded
unique
by...
country.
This is a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers, but just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world. No country says that temporary visitors, their children, will be given complete access to the benefits and blessings of American citizenship. America should actually look out for the interests of our citizens first, and that means, again, if you're here permanently and lawfully, your kid becomes an American citizen. If you're not here permanently, if you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and don't plan to be, why would we make those people's children American citizens permanently?
Procreation cannot and should not serve as a shield for unlawful actions. While the narrative of splitting up families tugs at heartstrings, it distracts from the core issue, the deliberate manipulation of legal provisions to gain an unjust foothold in the country. Birthright citizenship, originally intended to grant citizenship to children of lawful residents, has been weaponized as a tool to game the system and bypass legal processes. This abuse erodes public trust and strains the nation's resources. To restore fairness, uphold the rule of law, and preserve the integrity of our borders, this outdated and exploited practice must be reformed without delay. Public officials who have failed in their duty to enforce immigration laws must face consequences for their inefficiency and inaction. Bureaucrats who have facilitated the erosion of American sovereignty must be held financially and legally accountable. Strict enforcement of zoning and housing codes is essential to restore neighborhood stability and protect community resources. Schools must refocus on academic excellence, prioritizing the education of American children. Teacher training should emphasize unity and integration, while curricula should celebrate American history, heritage, and ideals. The education of America's youth must remain the nation's highest priority. By implementing legal and economic penalties for employers who hire undocumented workers, the U.S. can make illegal residency unsustainable. These measures, combined with streamlined pathways for lawful immigration, can incentivize self-deportation while maintaining fairness and respect for the rule of law. Infrastructure investment, tax reforms that favor small businesses, and community development policies must take precedence. The American dream must be about ensuring economic security, opportunity, and cultural preservation for all citizens. The restoration of America's greatness depends on a renewed commitment to the principles that define this nation: opportunity, freedom, and unity. The damage inflicted by the Biden administration cannot simply be reversed. It must be replaced with a transformative strategy that prioritizes accountability, justice, and the American people. This is not just a call for policy reform, but a rallying cry for a cultural and political renaissance. It's time to reaffirm that the government exists to serve its citizens, not the other way around. By addressing illegal immigration, economic instability, and educational dysfunction with decisive policies, we can rebuild the foundations of the American dream and ensure that future generations inherit a nation defined by hope, opportunity, and prosperity. The time to act is now. The America we must restore is worth the fight.